Welcome to History for Nap Time. Tonight we travel back to the 1860s, a time when America was divided, when brothers stood on opposite sides of battlefields, and when a soldier's life was far from the glorious tales told back home. But tonight's story isn't about the fighting, it's about the waiting. The long days between battles, the mud, the hunger, and the quiet moments when war slowed down just enough for soldiers to feel it. This is what one day in a Civil War encampment was really like. And it's why you, with your modern comforts and soft sheets, probably wouldn't survive it. It begins before dawn. The first light hasn't touched the horizon yet, but the camp is already stirring. A bugle breaks the silence, thin and sharp in the cold air. You open your eyes and realize you're not in a bed, but on the hard ground, wrapped in a wool blanket damp with dew. The smell hits you first. Smoke, sweat, and the faint staleness of a dozen unwashed bodies sleeping side by side. You try to stretch, but the stiffness in your back tells you what the others already know. Rest is never real here. All around, men rise slowly, pulling on worn boots and uniforms stiff with dirt. Some cough violently. One spits blood into the mud. A soldier stumbles past you toward the fire pit, rubbing his hands together. Someone's already brewing coffee, and if you can call it that. It's bitter, made from burnt beans, sometimes from roasted corn if supplies ran out. Still, the smell is comforting. The morning light creeps in, grey and thin. You hear laughter somewhere. Rough, tired laughter that disappears as quickly as it comes. The day has begun. Breakfast is simple and always the same: hardtack and salt pork. Hardtack, a small square of flour, water and salt baked so dry it could survive a century. You bite it carefully. It doesn't crumble, it cracks. Soldiers soften it in their coffee or stew to avoid breaking their teeth. The pork, when there is any, is hard and salty. Some scrape off the green mould and call it seasoning. You chew slowly and watch the camp come alive. Men mend uniforms with twine. Others polish their rifles, though the barrels are already rusted. There's no rush. There's nowhere to go. The army waits for orders, always waiting. A few soldiers joke about home. Wives, sweethearts, farms left behind. Their accents mix like the patchwork of their uniforms. In this army, some men are barely 16. Others are past 40. Many have never travelled more than a few miles from where they were born until this war called them away. When breakfast is done, the fire burns low. Someone hums a tune, an old hymn, soft and slow. If you could bottle the scent of a Civil War encampment, no one would ever open it twice. The ground never dries. Mud, manure and ash mix underfoot. The latrines are shallow pits dug just beyond the tents, and when the wind shifts, everyone knows it. Add to that the smoke from hundreds of small fires, the sweat of men who haven't bathed in weeks, and the sweet, rotting odour of spoiled food. The air is thick, heavy, almost alive. You breathe shallowly, but it doesn't help. Some soldiers hang bits of mint or tobacco in their collars to mask the smell. Others stop noticing entirely. You can see it in their eyes. A dull acceptance, the way people get used to pain when it never leaves. Not far from the rows of tents stands a white one, larger but quieter. The doctor's tent. You hesitate before walking closer. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of alcohol, blood and lye. A man lies on a table, teeth clenched on a leather strap. Another soldier holds him down by the shoulders. The doctor's saw glints in the dim light. An amputation. The man screams once, short, raw. Then his voice disappears into the steady sound of the blade. There is no anesthesia, only whiskey and willpower. The doctor works fast. He has to. There are dozens more waiting outside. Fever, gangrene, dysentery. A young orderly wipes his hands on an apron already stained brown. He looks no older than you. His face is pale, eyes hollow. You realise that here death isn't a visitor, it's a neighbour. You step back out into the cold. The noise of the camp feels almost gentle now. War is mostly waiting, and waiting has its chores. You join a group carrying water from a creek half a mile away. The bucket handles dig into your fingers. When you return, you help chop firewood, the axe heavy, the wood damp. Others repair boots, clean rifles, or scrape rust from bayonets. A few dig new trenches. The soil is packed and cold. The officers walk by, inspecting. A careless word, an unbuttoned coat, or a missing piece of gear can bring punishment. Extra duty, confinement, sometimes worse. Discipline keeps the army together. As the day grows warmer, The camp begins to hum with flies. They gather around the waste pits, around food, around the bandaged men lying in shade. There are no real breaks, only smaller tasks. You realize how heavy silence feels here. Not peaceful, but tense, like something waiting to happen. In the afternoon, the mail wagon arrives. A sudden ripple of life spreads through the camp. Men rush forward, shouting names. Some laugh as they open envelopes, eyes bright with relief. Others stand still, waiting, but their names aren't called. You watch one man unfold a letter and read it over and over, lips moving silently. Then he tucks it into his pocket close to his heart. Another man crumples his and throws it into the fire, jaw tight. No one asks why. When the mail is gone, the energy fades. Those without letters stare at the ground or try to look busy. You realize how much hope is carried on paper here. A few lines written by trembling hands hundreds of miles away. If the camp smells of smoke and sweat, the letters smell faintly of home. By late afternoon, the sun burns through the haze. Sweat and dust cling to your skin. You hear coughing from every direction. Illness is the true enemy here. Dysentery, typhoid, smallpox, invisible foes that kill more soldiers than bullets ever will. In the shade of a tree, a few men lie wrapped in blankets. One breathes in short, shallow gasps. Another mutters to himself, lost in fever. The doctor passes by, glances once, then keeps walking. There's nothing more he can do. You hear someone joke that if the enemy doesn't get you, the water will. The laughter that follows is thin, almost hollow. You start to understand that survival here isn't about courage, it's about endurance, the ability to live with misery day after day and call it ordinary. When the sun begins to set, the camp softens. The air cools, fires flicker to life again. Someone passes a tin cup of coffee around. Men sit in small groups, talking quietly or staring into the flames. One soldier pulls out a harmonica. The tune is slow and familiar, something about home, or maybe about nothing at all. A few others hum along. For a brief moment it feels almost peaceful. You see them not as soldiers, but as people, tired, lonely, and trying to hold on to something human in a place that has forgotten how. The sky deepens to purple. Smoke curls upward. You think about how strange it is, how in the middle of such hardship they can still laugh, sing, and tell stories that start with, "When this war is over." You almost forget that tomorrow will look exactly the same. As darkness settles, so does a different kind of silence. Fires burn low. Tents glow faintly from within. The sound of crickets mixes with the occasional cough or restless snore. You lie down again on the same hard ground. The blanket is thin and the cold seeps in. Somewhere nearby, a man whispers a prayer. Farther off, a horse whinnies in its sleep. But beneath it all you feel it, the unease that never fades, the knowledge that at any moment orders could come. Tomorrow could mean marching or fighting or never waking again. You realize that for these men, fear has become a routine. It's not loud, it's quiet, steady, like the sound of your own heartbeat in the dark. The bugle sounds again. Another day begins. You wake stiff and sore, your throat dry, your body cold. You've survived the night, but already you understand how fragile that means here. You look around. The same men rise again, faces blank, movements slow. Another day of chores, of waiting, of holding on to hope. One man coughs blood into his hand. Another laughs weakly at a joke you can't hear. And you realize something simple and terrible. No one here expects comfort, only survival. As you watch the smoke rise and the light spread across the camp, you understand why you wouldn't last a single day. Not because of pain or fear or hunger, though those would be enough, but because you have lived in a world where warmth, safety and silence are taken for granted. Here, none of those exist. The men in this camp wake each morning not for glory, but because they must. They endure, not because they are stronger, but because there is no other choice. You take one last look, the torn tents, the muddy boots, the weary eyes, and then you step back, out of the past, into your own time. The bugle still echoes faintly behind you, fading into the morning air. The soldiers of the Civil War lived through a kind of exhaustion few today can imagine. They marched through mud and hunger, they fought disease more often than battle, they slept beside the dying, dreamed of home, and awoke to orders. Some never saw the end. Those who did carried the smell of smoke and the sound of drums with them for the rest of their lives. Their camps are gone now, reclaimed by trees and grass, but the memory of those long days and longer nights still lingers in the quiet corners of history. So tonight, as you rest in your warm bed, remember them. The tired, the hungry, the frightened. They endured what few could, and that's why, even for a single day, you probably wouldn't have survived their world. Good night.